and welcome to Video Game Hangover. I'm Randy Dickinson, and I'm in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Hey, I'm DJ Ross. I am in Mountain View, California.
Each week on Video Game Hangover, we talk about the games that have been keeping us up at night. This week we're playing Death's Door, Streets of Rage 4, and Groove Coaster YY Party.
It's quite a list this week.
Why? Why party?
Why? Yeah, I don't know. Well, we'll find out, I suppose.
Yeah. How's it going? How's your summer going, DJ? Doing anything fun? Sitting on a beach?
You know me, just always at the beach.
Working on your tan?
Yes, that is. I'm well known for my just bronze complexion. Gotta maintain it.
You probably have relatively close access to a beach, right? I imagine you... well, I have this thing in my brain where I feel like all California is near a beach at any given moment.
Oh, yeah. No, I just walk outside and I'm right there. It's very
You're
convenient.
on the ocean, yeah.
Yes.
Swinging, and palm trees swaying in the breeze.
Yes, exactly. That is, I think statistically, all Californians are within, 50 feet of a beach at all times, like you were saying.
Right, yeah. That's what the tourism commercials have led me to believe. It's just like Rob Lowe hiking and then, I don't know, Jennifer Aniston on a beach somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, it's just such a common occurrence to me. I didn't feel like it was worth mentioning that I was spending time at the beach.
Went to the beach today, ran into Jennifer Aniston again.
Yeah, I mean, she's probably down in LA or wherever. I don't know who we've got up here.
Yeah. I apologize for my dated celebrity references. I'm not good at this day.
Gotta go with Jennifer Lawrence. No, that's probably already dated. Who's the new Jennifer?
I don't know. No, I don't know. I've not kept up with such things.
Matthew McConaughey. Just evergreen reference.
Selena Gomez.
Okay. Just hanging out with Selena Gomez this weekend. I don't know what's happening anymore.
That's a famous person, right?
I've heard of her.
Yeah. Me too.
How about you? Spending a lot of time at the beach? I know. Also known for your just bronze complexion.
No, we like to go in the fall when it's a little cooler and less crowded, and we can bring the dogs. So Virginia Beach is kind of the closest big beach to me in Virginia, oddly enough. And they don't allow dogs on the beach before Labor Day. So we go after Labor Day so we can take the dogs off leash and they can run around and have a good time and chase crabs and stuff. So
I think that's the way to do it. I think vacation in the off season, because why would you just want to go somewhere where there are a million people?
Yeah, a million people with their kids. That's the part I'm like, whoa, let these kids go back to school. Go back to school, kids, and I will come to your beach. Yeah. Plus, I'm never the kind of person to put my dogs in jail while I go on vacation. So we try to take them with us as much as is realistically possible.
Oh, that's good. You don't send them off to a doggy beach somewhere?
No. We've tried to do the doggy resort thing sometimes, but it just never feels like a resort when I walk in. It always feels like, just a room full of cages. I'm like, that's not a resort.
That doesn't sound like a resort to me.
Yeah. So it's good.
Like a resort prison.
Right, exactly. As they get a little bit older, it's nice to take them to the beach and just, let them run around and do dog things.
Yeah.
Well, I sort of apply SPF 100 and, wear 2 hats and 3 pairs of sunglasses and, squint read books on my Kindle.
Oh, man. That just made me think of, there was this mod for Resident Evil Village. The tall vampire lady with the hat. Yes. Everybody loves her.
Dimitrescu or something.
Yeah.
Selena Gomez.
So Selena Dimitrescu or whatever.
Yeah.
Somebody had edited the PC version, so whenever you looked at her hat began growing in size. so she chases you throughout the game, right? So whenever they turn around to see if she's catching up with you, all they would see was this enormous hat getting larger and larger. But it just for whatever reason, when you mentioned having to wear two hats on the beach. I thought, oh man, you know who probably doesn't have that problem? Lady Dimitrescu.
Yes, yeah. I mean, she's a vampire, so she's probably not spending a lot of time on the beach. But if so, giant hat is the way to go.
Yeah, maybe she goes out at night or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Man, just a lot of stuff you had to take into consideration. Vampires going on vacation.
So yeah. We played some video games.
Anyway, before we get into the video games, I have an update.
My preferred summertime activity is staying inside with the air conditioner on, playing video games.
Oh, true. Yeah, for sure. So you remember the World of Warcraft / new Final Fantasy streamer I talked about a couple weeks ago?
Yes, yeah. Your newfound love for watching people play video games on the internet.
Right. So, so I found out this weekend, thanks to some detective work on the Reset Era forums, that he is super problematic still.
Oh no.
So I have I've stopped watching those streams, which is disappointing. Doubly disappointing because I really got the impression that he was just an actual smart guy. Seems like a real critical thinker. Mm-hmm. So it was disappointing to me to find out that he kind of has these personality quirks.
Yikes. What without getting into sort of gory details, what flavor of problematic is he?
Oh, just pick one. It's probably in there.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah. Just sort of the whole the $12.99 sampler platter. Yeah.
Sure. I mean, I don't want to make any false accusations or anything, but I feel like you would have a decent chance of hitting.
Jeez, I sort of feel like you could go to Twitch
if you were doing Family Feud of problematic gamer traits.
Show me
right.
Is a Nazi. No.
Yeah. I don't know if I would go that far, but I mean, you get the picture.
Yeah, I feel like you could go to TwitchCon and throw a rock and hit just any number of disgusting, horrible, deplorable people.
Yeah. I don't know how true that is. I wouldn't be surprised though. Anyway, it's just disappointing to me. I felt like I don't know. I don't know the entire picture. I don't know this guy's entire backstory. Like I was saying, he kind of plays a character on most of his streams. Seems like some of the bad stuff is happening off stream as well, though. Mm-hmm. And I just feel like
at least he's consistent.
Yeah, right. Yeah, gotta stick to your principles, I suppose.
Right.
But I mean, what really kind of tipped it for me was just seeing. I watched some of these videos that people were digging up just so I could, see it for myself, and then I watched the sort of reaction within his community to these videos, and that was when I realized, oh man, this is just a cesspool of just internet garbage. I think that's very telling, because if that's the sort of community that you are sort of cultivating and not really doing anything to curb, then I think that is kind of representative of what you stand for. So yeah, it was a fun couple weeks of watching streams. It was a lot of fun, but
ignorance is bliss, right?
Yeah. So
yeah.
So I'm not doing that anymore.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just wanted to put that out there because previously I had been very enthusiastic about this guy playing Final Fantasy, and that is no longer the case.
So, challenge to our community then, because I obviously have this perception that there's a lot of toxicity in the streamer verse. Who are good, positive, progressive, non-disgusting streamers? Because I feel like I only hear about and learn about, and obviously this is not something I spend hours a day consuming, I only hear about these people when they have, said something gross or done something gross. And then have gotten sort of kicked off of Twitch or whatever because of it. So who should we be watching? Who are the people who are not horrible that we should support with our time and, clicks?
I don't know. I mean, you're asking the community, so...
I'm asking, our listeners. There's got to be people out there that, do not cultivate disgusting habits amongst their community.
Yeah, I have a handful who I watch who I feel pretty good about.
Yeah.
But
you've done your research on this.
yeah. I knew them from other projects before they started streaming.
Gotcha.
Nowhere near, or I don't really watch anybody with an audience nearly as large as this other guy, so that was kind of a different thing to me as well. I couldn't tell you who like the largest streamer I like could be watching though.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Didn't mean to open with a downer, but just wanted to get that out of the way.
I certainly did not mean to disparage the entire world of people who like watching video games on the internet.
Right.
But, yeah. Anyway, now that I've done that, let's move on.
On a more positive note,
yeah,
it is the 10th anniversary of one of my favorite video games this week. That would be Groove Coaster, which started out as a humble iOS mobile game, and now it is just all over the place. Well, maybe not all over the place.
I thought it was an arcade thing.
It is an arcade thing. I mean, maybe that's the extent to which it is all over the place.
Began as an arcade thing, yeah.
Oh no! So it started as a mobile game, and it came out it was July 28th, 2011, I believe. So like kind of at the start of like the whole mobile game craze, which is interesting because like I don't know if people really knew how to make mobile games back then, but right out of the gate, these guys, I feel like they really nailed it because not only is it a great music game, it works extremely well on phones. Like it was really clearly designed with sort of like the phone in mind because it uses the touchscreen very well. It's very sort of mobile friendly, just all around very thoughtfully designed.
Cool.
And so like I don't really know. Like, this has been one of my favorite games for a while. I feel like not a lot of people know about it. I felt like it was like kind of up to me to raise awareness about this 10th anniversary happening. Didn't really know what to do other than just check out the latest edition of it, which came out on the Switch, I think maybe last year or a year or two ago, which is Groove Coaster YY Party. And yeah, I'm just as confused as you are about what's going on with the name. To me, YY sounds like something an excited anime character would scream. So I don't really know what is a YY Party, but just given the look of the Switch game, which has all these like anime mascots all over it, and given the sort of direction of Groove Coaster over the last maybe 5 or 6 years, which has, with the advent of the arcade version, it feels like it's been slowly becoming more and more like anime and J-pop focused. It's not like too much of a stretch that, oh yeah, we're putting on a new Groove Coaster and it's called YY Party. So like, oh, sure, I guess this makes sense at this point.
Sure.
So I was like, it took me a while to get into this. I was a little wary after they did a PC port. It's even several years earlier, which I was very excited about, and it was just not very good. It was kind of buggy. It had a lot of like latency issues, which is not good for a music game. And it very soon after release, like maybe under a couple of years, they just stopped supporting it on Steam, which is like, oh, that's not good.
Yeah.
So when they announced this, they were doing a Switch version, I thought, oh, I don't know, guys. I just kind of got burned on the PC version. I'm still like perfectly happy with the mobile version. Like I'll still play it pretty often. They're still supporting it very well.
So that's sort of like the definitive version of this game up to this point had been the
right
the mobile one.
Yeah. Just because I can't have the arcade version in my apartment, I have to settle with the mobile version. But for the anniversary, I decided, okay, I'll finally get into this, see what the Switch version is all about. And I feel like it's actually pretty good. It's feels much more kind of stable. Maybe not stable. Maybe stable is not the right word, but it doesn't seem to have the latency issues that the PC version did. Feels pretty solid. Feels like they've been putting out content for it fairly regularly and talking it up on social media, which I guess is a good sign that they're at least aware of it, which is unlike the PC version, which after a few months they were just like, what's going on with this game, guys? community seemed a little confused.
And you said this game has been out for a little while, so the fact that they continue to sort of generate visibility for it is helpful.
Yeah. So just to get into how it actually works, it's a rhythm game, and it's fairly similar to like something like Guitar Hero, where you have notes scrolling across the screen, and as they reach a certain point, basically like you have a little player avatar in the center of the screen. When they intersect with the avatar, you just push a button. Like on the phone, you would tap your screen, but on the Switch, you just push one of the buttons to play the note, and it continues on from there. But what's interesting about Groove Coaster is each track, it's not like a linear kind of playfield like Guitar Hero, but your avatar basically moves along this little line that twists and turns, kind of like a roller coaster, if you will.
Oh.
So these notes travel
Clever.
down the line towards your little guy, and you have to just play the notes as they come up. And you have all like a whole variety of note variants. So like you have your taps and like hold notes and like flick notes, where on the phone you would be like swiping from side to side. On the Switch version, you just use the analog sticks to push in a direction.
Mm-hmm.
So it's got a lot going on. It's got quite a breadth of soundtracks at this point. Some of which are from the mobile version and the arcade versions, but this is kind of unique to the Switch version, and I think this is sort of like where the YY party comes into play. It really feels like, whereas the mobile version, it started out with all these kind of very simple like electronic tracks. I don't know if that was because of like limitations of the platform, or that was just what the like sound directors were into.
Mm-hmm. Now, were they sort of creating their own soundtracks, or were they licensing music from other sources?
It was the majority of the songs I think were actually original for Groove Coaster, but they would bring in.
Oh, interesting.
It was developed by Taito staffers. It was like Taito's house band, Zuntata. So they would occasionally bring in like Zuntata songs, some other games they had worked on. They would license songs. I think at one point they had some Lady Gaga tracks in there, which are no longer available.
Oh, really?
I actually didn't play them. I'm really disappointed that I never got to check this out. But like over the years, they've brought in tracks from tons of different sources. And slowly but steadily, it seems like they've been leaning more towards like anime, like J-pop and like Vocaloid songs. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if that's just because as they move into like the arcade version, which is a little more capable of a platform, they can put what feels like more like robust music on there. But anyway, so we've got Groove Coaster YY Party. It's got all these anime characters on it, and it really feels like most of the soundtrack is now, I don't know, for lack of a better way to describe it, it feels like it's a lot of like Japanese pop idol music, or at least that kind of sound, where it's like very upbeat. Sounds like it could be the opening of some cartoon, which is fine, but it's just very different than how I imagine Groove Coaster to sound.
The first 5 minutes of any Persona game.
Sure, yeah. I'm surprised there aren't any Persona songs in there, actually.
Yeah.
Seems like that would be a good fit. So that was another thing that was kind of keeping me away from this version, is I would look over the soundtrack and not recognize like 90% of it. Because when the PC version came out, at least, it had a lot of songs that carried over from the mobile and arcade versions. But again, I decided, since it's the big anniversary, to just take one for the team and check it out. And for the most part, the soundtrack's been pretty good as well. I feel like it depends on your tolerance level for kind of like high-pitched like anime characters singing.
Yikes.
A little bit. But if you're not into that, they're still, they've got a lot of classic Groove Coaster songs in there. They have a lot of actually really, really like good Vocaloid songs that I enjoy. That I've kind of come around on. It's a bit of an acquired taste. But it's not all just like shrieking anime characters. At least, at least not most of it.
Well, good.
Right.
Have you indulged in any DLC, any tracks you've bought and downloaded?
I haven't, and that is it's a bit of a hurdle for me. I felt like the mobile version had one of the best sort of like pricing models or like content delivery models that I've seen, because the game itself was free. It came with a handful of songs, and then you had this huge library of songs that they would sell for, I think it was like $5 for a pack. You get like 4 songs. Like, that's pretty good.
Cool.
That's
yeah, it's
probably cheaper than Rock Band, right?
I think so. Yeah, I think Rock Band was $2 a song for the most part.
Yeah.
They would do packs every now and then, but yeah, if you wanted just a single track, I think you were out $1.99.
Yeah, so I mean, I do really like that in Rock Band you could just buy the individual tracks. Like, I think that's kind of ideal. But
yeah,
I feel like this worked pretty well because you could just get the game and have stuff to play. And then the packs weren't too expensive. If you just wanted to like take a flyer on one of them, you got 4 songs, sometimes like 5 or 6, I don't know. And they would do bundles too, so I thought that was pretty good. With this one, the bundles are much larger. They're like 10 songs. So I think each one is $15, which is still pretty good like value for the songs you're getting, but it's, it feels like much more of a commitment, because you can't, like, $5 for a song pack is almost an impulse buy as I'm like browsing through these things. But you can't go to the eShop and just be like, well, so let me throw down $15 on some of these songs I've never heard. Hopefully I like whichever anime characters are on the box art. So it's a little tough when I don't know all those songs. In fact, I was looking through somebody put together a very nice spreadsheet of all the DLC available at this point, and just going through it and trying to pick out songs that I recognize from previous versions. They seem to be, I imagine this is not on purpose, but I would basically have to buy like 4 or 5 packs to get the 4 or 5 songs that I recognize that I would like to play.
Oh, no.
So I was like, oh man, that could have been done better.
Yeah.
So to give you the short version of that answer, no, I have not bought any DLC. So I'm still trying to decide which one to sort of go in on, because I would like to check that out. I would like to add some more songs to it, because
lest you have to spend $60 to get to the 5 songs you want.
Yeah, right. Because I'm having a pretty good time with it.
Good.
So, man, I had such a bad experience with the PC version. I was just fully expecting this to just fall apart. But like, the button controls work really well. I feel like in some cases they work better than the touchscreen controls.
Oh, wow.
Especially when it comes to...
Can you touchscreen on the Switch also?
Oh, man, I haven't tried that yet. There are so many different control options on this, and that's the one I didn't try out.
Gotcha.
I don't think you can. I'm like 90% sure that it doesn't have touch controls. But like, I really like the button controls, especially when it comes to doing like the directional slides, which are kind of finicky on the phone and even in the arcade version. But in this, you just like either flick one of the sticks or you just push one of the face buttons in the direction that it's pointing, which honestly feels a little bit like cheating. Like, you don't even really have to do the motion. But in this case, I'm like, all right, that's fine.
Sure.
In that sense, it feels like it might be the easiest version of Groove Coaster that's come out. But again, like, it's fine. I don't think anybody is having like pro Groove Coaster tournaments or anything revolving around this version.
Can you plug in your old Rock Band guitar and play along?
No, unfortunately you can't do that. Did they ever make any plastic instruments for the Switch? I feel like they kind of missed that era, didn't they?
Yeah, not that I'm aware of, no. I suspect there's probably some... Well, there's the... What you call
there's
it?
Like
the
Just
drums
Dance,
from...
right?
Lots of Just Dance, yeah. But no, it was the game that had the little bongos.
Oh, Donkey Kongo? Or Taiko Drum Master?
Maybe that's the one I'm thinking of. I'm not sure. But yeah. Or maybe I'm thinking of the maracas, the Samba de Amiga.
I think, yeah, was that on Switch also?
I thought so.
Well, anyway, I don't think you can plug any of those things into Groove Coaster and play it using a plastic instrument, which is, I don't know, maybe not the worst thing.
Yeah.
If you're really itching for some kind of weird novelty control scheme, they do have a mode where I believe it's for all the sort of like the swipe actions, or there are some notes where you have to either tap rapidly or spin one of the sticks around. You can play it with the Joy-Cons detached and then do like a like a Wiimote waggle whenever one of those notes comes up.
Oh, okay. That works.
And I tried that for a while, and I was like, I'm not feeling this, so I just went back to the button controls. But it's there if that's what you're really interested in doing.
Sure. It feels like a little bit of exercise.
Yeah, I think that's right. It is just a little bit of exercise. It also works in portrait mode, which is cool. So I was able to pull out the little flip grip kind of harness for the Switch and play it that way, which was interesting.
Oh, neat. Yeah.
Because it was in portrait mode on the phone, obviously, and then in the arcade as well. So that was...
One more game is flip grip compatible.
Yeah, that was nice to see. So overall, it's been pretty good. I think I'm safe in recommending this version if if people are itching for a music game on their phone. Yeah, the only thing is... unlike the mobile version, it is full price, which was another reason I was kind of slow at getting around to it. Because, it just feels expensive for a music game. And I hate to, really dwell on, the price point of games, but I don't know. Maybe I'm probably just spoiled by having this free mobile game around for so long.
Yeah. You set a weird precedent when you start as a mobile game and then make the jump to full price.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does it just come loaded with songs at least? Do you guys feel like you're getting your money's worth in that regard?
It does have a lot of songs. Like I was saying, a lot of them I'm not familiar with because they're all, there's a lot of Vocaloid stuff, which I'm not a huge, I'm just not super knowledgeable about. But it does feel like there's a pretty decent amount of music on there to begin with.
Well, good.
Oh. So that was a pleasant surprise. I don't know if I feel like they ought to do some mega DLC pack or something for the anniversary, but who knows? It'll probably just go under the radar.
The internet says that the game was pulled briefly from the Nintendo eShop because some DLC had explicit language.
It was. They just actually put it online a couple of weeks ago. This was good. It was actually out for quite a while. I think the song in question was available with the explicit language, and just nobody realized it. I mean, a lot of fans realized it. But they were content to leave it up in the eShop, I think, with a teen rating. And I don't know what it's on there as now. I think it might have been M at one point. It might still be M.
Wow.
But they might have... I actually don't know if they ended up changing the vocals in that one song. But it's kind of a funny situation. Hope nobody got in trouble over that.
Yeah. Well, I've been playing not a rhythm game. There is no anime character music in this at all.
Really?
I also don't know.
Disappointing.
Yep. If you can play it with your Rock Band guitar. So a lot of disappointing things on this week's show, apparently. So I've been playing Death's Door. This is
I keep wanting you to say Death Stranding. That's for some reason that's just what I expect to hear. Or you say Death's
Stranded Door.
Right.
No, it's called Death's Door.
Yeah, that sounds like a Kojima title.
Revengeance. Death's Door. You are you're a little crow who is also a Grim Reaper. And you work for a central bureaucracy that handles sort of the death of things that are due. You sort of get assigned jobs to venture into the world and reap souls who have come due. So I don't know. I like any game where sort of weird things, esoteric things have some sort of mundane bureaucracy sort of attached to them. Mm-hmm. It was kind of one of the things I liked about Control, where that it was sort of the Bureau of Control was this thing that was, the X-Files was sort of cataloging and investigating and preserving, unusual things in the universe, or the Men in Black, if you want to sort of extrapolate out further.
Mm-hmm. They had to do all the paperwork on the unexplainable artifacts that people would dig up.
Right.
That was good.
Yeah, I dig that. And in Control, they did a really nice sort of like sense of place with it, where everything was just sort of like really sad lighting and depressing sort of cubicles, and it was just like, investigating and preserving the weirdest and craziest things in the universe in this sort of really just tragically depressing setting. Death's Door sort of goes for that aesthetic. The main office that you go at is just rows of desks with litter on the floor and crappy motivational posters on the wall, and your boss is at the big desk sort of looming over, and you get jobs, and a door will appear and you step through the door and you go to a remote place where there is a soul who is in need of reaping. So you take your first job after a reprieve, after a break, and just as you're about to sort of finish them off, something mysterious happens, and that soul is whisked away, and you now have to go after it. You have to find out what happened and collect it. The longer a soul sort of remains kind of unreaped, the more kind of corrupt and horrible it gets. So you have to get it back soon before it turns into a hideous monster. So you chase it essentially across a bunch of different worlds and a bunch of different areas and stuff like that, and find a few other sort of corrupt souls along the way, and upgrade your arsenal. You get different weapons and stuff that you have available to you. Meet a bunch of different sort of colorful characters. And the game has a very very sort of sly, kind of understated sense of humor about it, which I really sort of appreciate. It's not like knee-slapping funny, but there is definitely some, subversive humor happening in kind of the dialogue and the interactions you have with other characters. But yeah, it is more than anything. I think it visually, it looks like they're sort of going for like a very kind of intense combat-focused, Dark Souls kind of thing. But I find it a little more playable, a little less punishing. Some of the boss battles are a little intense, and there is one that is making me insane. And I have watched like multiple videos on the internet for how do I get past this person, and I just cannot seem to replicate the ease with which people on the internet are able to do it.
That's the problem with these tutorial videos, is that by the time you watch it, the person in the video is just a master of it. So you're like,
right, they've played it 600 times.
So easy. I'll just do what they did.
I mean, I also feel like I've played it 600 times, but I'm still not able to get there. But yeah, so I'm struggling a little bit with that. But it's more Zelda than it is Dark Souls. I think it's definitely sort of going out in the world, upgrading your weapons, looking for hidden areas. There's a ton of those, piecing together sort of unusual puzzles and things like that. So, you come into a clearing in a garden with a castle on the edge of it that you're trying to get to, and there's a chessboard with pieces on it, and you're like, oh, this is a puzzle. This is a thing. There's going to be a secret here I have to solve. Cut to me searching high and low in the vicinity for some solution, some sort of hint as to what I'm supposed to do with the chessboard. But there's a lot of that kind of stuff built into Death's Door. There's a lot of things that are sort of like, yeah, you're just running around and taking dudes out with a sword and fighting monsters and stuff like that. But there are also cool little kind of Zelda-like unusual characters and people who sort of drop little hints and secrets and little corridors you can find your way down. And oh, hey, is that a little opening in the hedges that I can sort of get through and find my way to a secret entrance? So it has been a delight just sort of searching every corner of this little game, trying to find all the little secrets that are kind of packed into it.
That's interesting to hear about the Dark Souls, or just like the boss fights, because that is not the impression I got from looking at screens of this. I don't know if I'm just looking at the wrong screens, but it's kind of like an isometric, kind of 3/4 view. Just looks very, very friendly and inviting, kind of. Maybe I didn't pick up on all the horrible battles taking place.
Yeah. There's you have sort of your overworld kind of bad guys, the little ones that take 2 or 3 hits and don't do a ton of damage to you. But there will be scenarios you run into. Bastion did this, and it made me crazy in Bastion, where you would sort of walk into a room, magic invisible walls would go up, and you'd have just stream after stream of the guys that are just sort of fine and easy to pick off when they're kind of 1 or 2 by themselves. But when there's like 40 of them in a row, and every time you sort of vanquish 2 or 3 of them, 3 more pop through the door, and it just feels like it's never going to end. Death's Door does a little bit of that. And some of those get a little harried, get a little intense. You have a sword at your disposal that you can kind of use. These are all upgradable, so they get, your attacks get stronger over time. There are other weapons that are kind of grayed out that I haven't found yet. I found an umbrella. You can fight people with an umbrella, which looks fun, but it doesn't do a ton of damage, unfortunately. So I have not used it a lot. You have a bow and arrow at your disposal, and you have 4 arrows you can shoot with it until you have to kind of reload it, essentially. And the way you reload it is by doing melee attacks with your sword. So for every shot you get with your sword, it refills 1 arrow for you, and then you can switch back over to your bow and arrow. So there is sort of this push-pull between you sort of trying to stay away and pick off people where you can, and, I've got to recharge my arrow, essentially. So you kind of run up, take a few little slashes, and then, hide back in a corner again somewhere. But they come after you pretty assertively. They are definitely not shy about trying to attack you.
So what are you doing to all these enemies? Are you, like, killing them? Are you just making more work for yourself?
Yeah, you're killing them and you're collecting their souls.
Oh, you just immediately since you're right there.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
Yeah. And their souls are these little sort of pink bubbles that you sort of get from them. And the little guys, anyways, there are great, big, fat, juicy souls that you're trying to reap as well that are worth tons and tons of points. But the little ones are good for redeeming for upgrades to your sword, redeeming for upgrades to your bow and arrow, and your speed, your dodge. All of those are super important. You will need that dodge. Yeah. That is probably something that carries over very well from kind of a Dark Souls kind of experience, where you definitely need to time your attacks very carefully and make sure you get out of the way super quick, because enemies are not gonna, these are not sort of like Arkham Knight enemies where the little line will light up over their head and they wait their turn patiently to fight you. These are definitely much more sort of aggressive and will happily attack you all at once if you find your way stuck in a corner.
That sounds a bit like Dark Souls.
Yeah.
Man, people are always saying, like, what happens to your soul when you die? And it sounds like the answer is it gets spent on upgrading somebody's stats.
A little crow will take him back to his office and give him to his boss.
Specifically, like the Grim Reaper.
Yes, yeah.
Interesting.
To upgrade his sword or whatever, yeah.
You just help make the Grim Reaper more powerful.
But it feels like a pretty good balance, I think, between the Zelda stuff, the fun kind of exploration stuff that I like, the making your way through the world, this very huge kind of expansive world, with a lot of like shortcuts and double backs and locked doors and broken ladders, and you're like, Jesus, got to be a way to fix the ladder. What's the secret that unlocks that? So you get a lot of like video game kind of visual cues for things that in the world that you're supposed to sort of look for and solve that will allow you to sort of unlock little additional secrets and upgrades and stuff like that. All of that stuff is super satisfying. The combat is fun, and I feel like, in most circumstances, I get it. When I die, I'm like, I know exactly what I did wrong in that in that situation. I have to do better next time, and you generally get better. I have recently learned that you can, if enemies sort of do like projectiles at you, if you slash them fast enough with your sword, you can launch them back at them, which is always super satisfying in video games. So there's these characters that are little wizards that they look like whiz robes, essentially. Again, the Zelda thing, who sort of pop in and out of existence, and will shoot little fireballs at you or lightning balls at you and stuff like that. But you can slash those quickly with your sword and launch them back in their general direction, and they don't seem to care for it. So that has been a good thing that has kept me alive in multiple circumstances, because you don't have to sort of take them on one-on-one directly. You can kind of hang back a little bit as long as you get the timing right on that slash.
Nice.
Yeah. So all of that stuff, I think, kind of comes together nicely. It doesn't sort of feel like it weighs too heavily on the kind of frustrating moments in battle. The bosses will make you work for it, of course, but nothing that feels like game breaking. There is this one character, this Dark Knight, that I'm trying to beat. It just sort of makes me wish maybe there was an easy mode I could drop it down into and just stroll through. Mm-hmm. But I know when I beat him, it's going to feel fantastic. So,
see, now you're getting it.
So I'm going to hang. I'm going to try to hang anyways and see if I can take him out.
This is how it starts. It's all going to be Dark Souls games from here on out.
I don't know if I'm built for an entire game built around that concept, or if it's this one or two little sort of nuggets in an otherwise kind of fun explory type game. That might be more my speed.
Well, I mean, there's exploration in Dark Souls. You have like little quiet moments or quieter moments between all the boss fights as well.
Yeah. I guess I never lived that long. The only one I've really played is Bloodstained.
Bloodborne.
Nope. Bloodborne.
Yeah, no, that's kind of similar rhythm in that game too.
Still don't know if it's my thing.
Yeah, I mean,
I do know it's not my thing. Yeah, I can speak for that.
They're definitely a little more demanding than this game sounds.
Yeah. But Death's Door, I think it really just sort of brings the charm. There's a lot of things sort of about it that kind of work for me and kind of push, this is a game Randy will like kind of buttons for me. All of those things, sort of the sense of humor, the character design, sort of the structure of it, where if you're back in your kind of mundane office environment, everything's sort of in black and white and kind of drab. And the only sort of real color in the world is when you go on to the other side and you're there as a harbinger of death, essentially. I love the idea that you're this tiny little diminutive crow, and everybody sort of fears you as the Grim Reaper.
Not everybody else is a crow?
Everybody in your office is a crow, but everybody else kind of in the world are a weird variety of things. There's a witch I'm trying to dispatch, and she has kind of cursed a number of people in the village outside, and they all have weird kind of unusual deformities and things like that. There's a character you interact with named Pothead, whose head is a pot.
Sure. Well, was he born that way?
No, he was not born that way. He used to be a very handsome man, and the witch cursed him and turned his head into a pot of soup.
So they just started calling him Pothead.
Yes. So he wasn't born Pothead, but he doesn't want to die Pothead, so he's trying to get revenge on the witch. So he partners up with you and helps sort of usher you through the world a little bit. But he's an interesting character, and he always has little moments where he's like, "Come, little crow, sit next to me on this bench and let me tell you a story." And you get a couple little lines of dialogue about what his life was like before, and how this horrible curse of turning his head into a pot of soup has ruined his life. And oh, by the way, would you like some soup? And he'll pour a little out for you from his head. It's adorable and adorably weird, and again, all of that sort of works for me. He is one of, in the first 4 or 5 hours alone of interesting characters that I've met and have sort of grown in affection for. But yeah, it's good. I'm having a good time with it. Would highly recommend.
Nice. Yeah, I was kind of curious about this. I was hoping to get a chance to play it, but I just didn't have time to squeeze it in between all the groove coastering this week.
Seems to be kind of an Xbox or PC exclusive at this point, but I believe I've read, I'm almost confident I've read that it's coming to everything else eventually.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Interesting. So, I don't know if the sort of revelation that it has Dark Souls boss fights make me more or less interested to check it out, but I'm still curious.
I don't want that to scare anybody off. That probably doesn't scare you off, DJ, because you're generally pretty game for that.
Sure, sure.
Yeah. If you're normally listening, tune into this show to hear Randy talk about Animal Crossing and whatever. Don't let the Dark Souls talk here scare you off. I've never played one of those games, so I don't really have that touch point. Yes, the combat in this is probably a little more sort of aggressive and technical than I'm generally accustomed to in a video game, but it's not impossible. The first soul that you're trying to reap, the one that sort of gets taken from you and begins the rest of the journey as you're chasing after it, is in the first 10 minutes of the game, and it's a boss battle. But it's essentially a Zelda one, where it's got a pattern. All the attacks come in threes, so if you get the timing right, you learn to jump at the right time and roll at the right time, you can get through these things pretty handily. I'm just really struggling with this one Dark Knight. He's really, really testing me. But But yeah, a lot of the rest of it is just sort of, puzzle solving, roaming the overworld, and taking out little bad guys.
Nice.
Yeah. So again, just more Zelda than Dark Souls.
That was kind of what I was envisioning, because I was just looking at these screens. I thought, oh, this looks like Zelda. This will be a nice little relaxing break from whatever I'm doing. So just trying to picture myself going in with that mentality and then suddenly having to do all these boss fights.
Yeah. Yep. Those are there. You can't skip them, unfortunately, but they don't ruin the rest of the experience.
I mean, it sounds like you're keeping up with it so far, so it can't be too bad.
Yeah. I've held my own, relatively infrequent sort of restarts and stuff like that. It's pretty good about giving you checkpoints and stuff like that as well, so nothing too sort of demanding. You don't lose your souls when you die, so it's not like Dark Souls in that way where all of your progress is lost unless you can kind of get back to that point again. So I knew I had to sort of upgrade my sword at some point, or I was never going to be able to sort of get past the thing that was coming. So I was sort of doing a little strategic sort of die, be born again, kill everybody again, die again, just trying to sort of collect some souls so that I could build up enough coin to upgrade my sword and then take on the big boss. So yeah, it definitely sort of has some of those more traditional video game structures. It's not a roguelike. You would not confuse it for that at all.
Oh, so you get to keep all your upgrades and everything?
Yes, yep. Yeah, you don't lose any of that stuff when you die, which is good because I've done a lot.
Well, cool. I'll check that out. So let's see. So I finished River City Girls. I don't think I like this game. It came down to
it didn't sound like you did the last time you talked about it.
Yeah. It just I would say the fighting in it is fine, but as it went on, it just kind of like very deep flaws in the design started to make themselves known. I felt like I noticed this in a lot of games that I end up not liking. I feel like it comes down to boss battles a lot of times. Where I feel like if you just make the basic design for how a game is going to work, whether it's a shooter or a brawler in this case, most of the time it's perfectly fine to just throw a character into a hallway and have them do their thing, whether it's shooting stuff or beating people up. But I feel like when the game design really gets tested is once you have a boss battle and then it's you one-on-one against another big enemy, and it's basically at that point just you and the battle system, and hopefully they've made it interesting. Hopefully there's more to it than just mashing buttons over and over. And that's sort of where I felt this game really fell apart, is the boss fights are kind of interesting, but whenever they would try and add extra layers of complexity to them, it was just terrible. There was this one boss you could basically only damage by reflecting their bullets back at them, which is very tedious. There was another one which kind of took place in the middle of a Guitar Hero song, so there were all these obstacles flying at you. It was in a concert venue, and the boss was a musician. So it was a very fun concept, but it just was not fun to play.
Not great execution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was very glad to wrap that up. And I immediately moved on.
Kudos for sticking with it, at least.
Yeah, well, I felt like I've heard so many rave reviews of this game. I just thought, well, maybe I'm not getting it. But anyway, immediately moved over to Streets of Rage 4, because that's been in the news recently. Streets of Rage 4, the latest installment in, obviously, the Streets of Rage series. Just another sort of side-scrolling brawler like River City Girls. But man, I think this is it. This is what you want to be playing instead of that other game. And I say this, I played a little bit of Streets of Rage 2. I wouldn't consider myself an aficionado of the series. But just immediately getting into this game, it just feels so much better. And I'm having a hard time really nailing down what it is. I just feel like, I don't know if this was always just a characteristic of the series, most likely because they've always been extremely popular, but just the fighting in this feels really good. It's very satisfying. it's still very like challenging and technical without feeling super unfair or just poorly designed.
Oh, good.
So, like I was saying, I don't have a lot of experience with the series. I've played my share of brawlers, but it feels like in Streets of Rage 4, or in Streets of Rage in general, it feels almost like playing a fighting game at certain points where you have all these different moves. It would first appear to be a very basic moveset, like you've got a punch combo or like a melee combo, I suppose, and a jump and your super attacks and all that. But then you realize, so by combining all these buttons, you can like do an attack that punches behind you. You can do all these jump combos. You can cancel attacks into other attacks like you would do in a fighting game. So you have so many options. And so just comparing this to the massive list of moves that you could unlock in River City Girls, which seemed exciting. But at the end of the day, I was just like, what do all these, like, what's the point of even having all these moves? They all basically do the same thing in different directions. But in Streets of Rage, you really have to, like, as you get into the later stages and you're just faced with more and more difficult enemies, you have to figure out how to best utilize your moveset and all these different abilities you have to, like, keep enemies kind of stun locked so they're not fighting back against you, and really manage the crowd of enemies around you. And it feels like you don't have a lot of defensive options. Like, as far as I can tell, there's no block or just like a parry. So you really have to be aware of, like, if there are enemies sneaking up on you, how to deal with that. Or if there's some enemy approaching you, are they gonna, like, just let you walk up to them, or are they gonna, like, punch you in the face if you get too close? Just a lot of stuff you have to keep track of and just sort of be mentally present for as you're playing this.
Well, good. It sounds like a brawler built with a fighting game engine.
Yeah, it's not quite as complex as a proper fighting game, but it does feel like it has a bit of that mentality where, like, in the training mode, which actually does a really good job of sort of explaining a lot of the different, like strategies to you. It has very fighting game like kind of challenges where it says, okay, now do like these 4 or 5 moves, like try chaining them all together, because like it'll combo and like bounce your opponent off the wall and all that. You could get like really big damage on them. Mm-hmm. Which is like, okay, a lot of this seems very advanced for me, but it's really interesting to just see sort of the depth of the combat system here.
Cool. It certainly sounds like a big upgrade from River City Girls.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe there was a lot more depth just hidden away in that game, but just the fighting after a certain point just wasn't really satisfying to me anymore. I think one reason for that, weirdly enough, is in River City Girls, just felt like so many of the enemies were just big punching bags. They would just keep getting up over and over again. And it's just not satisfying if you're fighting an enemy in a game and they just won't die, or you just like, they just never give up, because you're just like, okay, how many more times do I have to punch you?
Right.
But in this, it seems like such a simple detail, but every enemy has a life bar, so you can just tell like how we're doing against them. I thought it was just, such a huge change from just mashing endlessly against the enemies in River City Girls and just switching over to Streets of Rage and knowing exactly like how much health the enemy has left, like how much more you have to worry about them, essentially.
Nice. I'm a fan of health bars. Put numbers at the top of their heads, just something that gives me some indication that I'm close to vanquishing this person.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
For the most part, I would agree with that.
Yeah. Death's Door has a kind of creative tell where the enemies start to crack as you break them down, and red like beams of light come out of the crack. So you get these sort of visual cues. As the red light gets brighter, you're getting closer and closer to reaping their soul, essentially. So it's not like a health bar, so you don't quite know, like, 2 more punches and I could take this guy down. But you're definitely like, if there's a lot of red light coming out of him, you're like, oh, I'm so close. I'm so close. So yeah, just give me some sort of visual clue that I'm making an impact here, that something's actually landing.
Yeah.
That's one of my frustrations with Biomutant, which I still continue to sort of play to this day, despite my many frustrations with it, is that I don't always sort of feel like my hits are landing. Like, is this making an impact? Is this actually taking enemy, damage off of this character, or am I just, like you said, beating against a punching bag?
Yeah. You want to at least have the idea that you're making some progress.
Right, yeah.
The no health bars thing it immediately makes me think of Monster Hunter, which famously has just never had health bars for the monsters you're fighting, which has been kind of a point of contention among, I would say, non-fans only. Because they're just like, where's the health bar? But it's interesting.
It's in your head.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that game encourages you to like really observe the monster, because there will be tells for how sort of how much you've worn them down. And also, it's just kind of a point of, like, it adds a lot of tension to the fight where you're never exactly sure, like, how far through the fight you are. Because there's, like, a lot of resource management you have to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's great in this because you can just tell, like, should I be saving my big attacks for this guy because he's got a ton of health left? Or, you know, I can just tap this other guy and he'll fall over and that'll be it. So that was very refreshing. I really like... There's just a lot of other fun details in this game as well. Like, you can pick up weapons. Like, you could do this in a lot of brawlers. You could do this in River City Girls as well, and just, like, smack people around with a lead pipe or whatever. But then you can also throw them across the screen, and this is something... I don't know if this was in previous Streets of Rage games, but this is really the first time I realized you could do this. And it's amazing, because you can throw a weapon at somebody, and it will bounce back. It will, like, you know, smack them in the head and just ricochet off their face. As it bounces back, you just grab it out of the air again, and you've got a weapon again. It's like the most badass thing I've ever seen.
It's like a boomerang, but it's not a boomerang.
Yeah, and even better.
Excellent.
Like, if an enemy has a weapon and they throw it at you, you can just catch it if your timing is good enough. So you could just be like, I don't know, like Jet Li, who is just like impervious to anything you can throw at them. Just be like...
Just snatching knives out of the air.
Yeah, exactly. So it's amazing. I like how you're talking about deflecting all the shots in Death's Door. So I was like, oh man, I've got something for you. Check out Streets of Rage. But it's very good. Like I said, there are not a lot of defensive options. I feel like the game just wants you to be very aggressive. So instead of giving you a block or a parry, what happens is I figured out that you're invincible when you're jumping while you're still going up anyway. Sometimes when I'll get swarmed, I'll just be like, oh, time to just jump out of here, and that works most of the time. But you also...
Just Superman out of the situation, just fly
away. A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
You also have this, I forget what they called it in the game, but there's this special move, basically, that's like super powerful, but it consumes some of your health. And you're also invincible when you do it. So I feel like you're kind of encouraged to do this because, like, you give yourself temporary invincibility, and then you can actually earn back the health that you spent on this move if you just start attacking people after this move goes off without getting hit. So there's a very high risk reward factor in there. I have not really mastered sort of that tactic because I'm very risk averse, but I appreciate that it's in there, and I feel like I would be doing much better at the game if I would just internalize the best way to do that.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so it's very much a game for I feel like brawler enthusiasts. I mean, it's one of the original brawler games. Anybody who's a fan is probably an enthusiast since back in the day.
It seems to have evolved, though. I mean, what you're sort of describing feel like very sort of modern video game, schemes, essentially.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like sort of a retro piece.
Yeah, so not having really been a longtime fan, I couldn't tell you how much of these things are really new to this one specifically. Like, I totally wouldn't be surprised if they were in some of the earlier installments as well. But they do feel a little bit... it does feel much more approachable than some of the earlier ones.
Well, cool.
Yeah, it's real good.
Yeah.
I've gone through it a couple times already because there are just a ton of characters you can play as. And it has just been super entertaining the entire time. One last thing I'll mention about it is one of the options in the menu is food. Because, like, in a lot of brawler games, you just find food in garbage cans and eat it to restore your health because it's a video game. And
sure.
I saw this and I was like, oh man, okay, so this is probably like... I wonder if they put a vegetarian option in here, because I know some games have done that.
Yes.
But it takes it a step further, and it's not like on or off, you want vegan meals or whatever. It just gives you, like, a whole menu of food items to choose from. Because when you're like, you can find 2 different sizes of food power up. You can find a small one and a large one, and it will just let you independently select what you want the small food to be and what you want the large food to be from a list of.
Oh, cool.
You've got your classic like Thanksgiving turkey, but then you can just opt for like a salad or something as well.
That's funny. It's customizable food options.
Yeah, so that was very fun.
Excellent. That's clever, and not something I don't think I've ever sort of seen replicated in a video game before.
Yeah. So really good. Turned me into a Streets of Rage fan, I suppose. Kind of curious to go back to the old ones as well, but I also have just a lot of characters to get through in this.
Cool. What are you playing this on?
This is, what am I playing this on? I think I'm playing this on the Switch, but it's on a whole lot of stuff at this point.
Cool.
Yeah, works fine on the Switch. Looks great. Like the old games were just, kind of 16-bit pixel art. This one, everything looks very hand-drawn, very lush illustrations. Looks really good.
Cool.
I was surprised actually at how many of the enemies just seem like just directly carried over from earlier Streets of Rage games. Because even though I haven't played them that often, I still recognize the characters. Like you've got, like especially there's this one enemy who just always has his hands in his pockets, and I was like, okay, I remember this guy. This guy who only does the kicks because he doesn't have any hands for whatever reason. So it was kind of fun just to see like all these old enemies coming back and getting the HD kind of redraw treatment.
Cool. All right. Well, good. I mean, it sounds like this is the game that you should have been playing all along.
Oh yeah. I don't know what I was thinking.
Good. All right. Well, exciting. We should wrap this thing up. Get back to playing those games.
Yeah.
If you need any more video game hangover in your brain, you should follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/VGHangover. And you can always get show notes and links and tell us what you thought about this episode at VGHangover.com. We would love for you to hang out with us on Discord. We've been talking about the Steam Deck a lot. We've been talking about, what else? Star Ocean has made a right. triumphant appearance and sort of is being revisited by a couple members of the community.
You ever play one of those Star Ocean games? I'm guessing
never.
Probably not. Yeah.
No.
Man, if you are into just weird anime characters in your JRPGs, that's a go-to.
I mean, really, you have no shortage of options if that's your thing.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I feel like more so than other games out there.
But yeah, if you want to hang out with us on Discord, talk about video games and other fun pop culture stuff, you can get a link to that at VGHangover.com. Please subscribe, rate, and review us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and anywhere else you can get a podcast. And help us out by telling your friends about the show.
Yeah.
That
helps us out a lot. Helps us spread the word about the show. We really appreciate it.
Definitely.
I want to give thanks again to Hal Binderman, also known as Heavy Viper, for our intro and outro music this week. Please head on over to heavyviper.bandcamp.com and check out some more of his stuff. It's good.
Nice. We're going to come back next week with some cool music stuff, right, DJ?
Yeah, so in honor of the Groove Coaster 10th anniversary, we are going to have an entirely Groove Coaster music show, which I'm very excited about.
Excellent.
So please look forward to that.
Cool. We'll be back you'll be back next week with Groove Coastering. Until then, this is Randy Dickinson.
This is DJ Ross.
Thanks for listening to Video Game Hangover. Goodbye.
Good night.
See ya.